I haven't had this much fun with an early access title since Pray for the Gods came to Steam, and that was back in 2019. I have bought early access games before that, my first being a game called Interstellar Marines, which is still in early access and will likely never exit it, which kind of raises the question, why is it still being sold? Surely if the game hasn't been updated in the last 6 years, Steam might pull the game from the storefront, but that's besides the point. Thankfully there are more devs around now who actually finish their games and provide regular updates. And I probably should mention what constitutes an update isn't what Pirate Software puts out for his game, so it doesn't get hit with Steam outing it hasn't been touched in a while. At least there's a demo for Heartbound, so I guess that's a plus in an ocean of minuses. I always feel when I watch videos about early access games, people treat them like they're full releases. I agree that if they're asking for money, you have a right to criticize it. However, I don't think we should be too critical with our assessment. After all, the devs could release a patch that fixes the issue you've experienced the next day. Which is why I'm going to say this. At the time of writing, 25th of April, Morbid Metal currently has 2 biomes, 3 playable characters, and a whole lot of fun. Seriously, as an early access game, it has what appears as very little, which is kinda true, but a lot of replayability. The whole idea behind Morbid Metal is you're running a simulation and the game hints a lot that you are a line of code made by someone to see how well you can perform a task. It reminds me of Distance as thematically it has something similar. I can also see how it draws some inspiration from The Matrix. When you first boot it up, you're put into a tutorial, but there's a character called Eden. Think of her as the Oracle. She provides you with guidance, that being the tutorial, and once you complete it, she asks you not to let anyone know you've spoken to her. Interesting. Then there's a faceless voice that speaks to you when you're in your runs, or iterations as they're called. I like to think of this as the architect, always watching and making sure you're performing your task. What the task is, I honestly don't know, the game isn't finished, but I'm hoping this gets expanded on because it's a really cool concept. Plus, you have him talking when combat starts and finishes, some references to the machines you fight as being your siblings, which reinforces the idea that you're a program or at least some kind of creation from someone playing as God. Eden does show up in your runs, but she acts as the person who gives you a place to rest and upgrade your skills and equipment. You can even trade health for currency. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to these. Because the game is so combat focused and with it being a roguelite, it's kind of expected for there to be something to pick up and boost your character strength in some way for the run you're on. You have skills you can obtain, there are character specific skills and universal ones, both pretty explanatory, but I like that there are active skills called protocols and passive skills called routines. I don't need to talk about routines because again, it's explanatory, but the protocols, these can actually be changed mid-run if you find one in a chest. I have a specific build I've been playing with, but what I've noticed is when I want the skills I use, but upgraded, they don't seem to spawn, almost like the game wants me to experiment. Then there's Corpora. Think of this as a trinket, a permanent buff you can have that will do something. It can give you more nanochips per kill, deal more damage to a certain type of enemy, or something like increase the charge up for your special skill. All types of skills can be upgraded, including the Corpora, but to do this more reliably you have to find an enhancer which won't spawn in your run unless you've used the currency you get to keep between runs called Void Matter. This is where the roguelite element shows itself. Every time you finish a run, either by beating the bosses or dying, you get to keep your Void Matter, and you can spend it on upgrades. These can be as basic as deal more damage to enhance the spawn in your run, or if you feel like adding high stakes to it, the Devil's Bargain, which isn't as bad as you think, at least if you find it quite late in the run. This is where the procedural generation kind of backfires on difficulty. If you get the bargain to spawn very early in the run, then for the next 3 combat encounters you kind of will have some difficulty and play safe, but if you get it quite late, like Biome 2 just before the current last boss like I did, it won't be much of a risk. I had a 50% increase to my crit chance for that fight. Needless to say, I was melting this boss, especially as my skills and Corpora were upgraded alongside having the majority of the passives I like. But hey, that's just the nature of it and I definitely won't complain. It felt great having a one-sided fight, it made me feel like I was the best, even if I'm not. There is another type of currency you can get. Bosses drop soul cores, although they're not specific to that boss like in a Souls-like. Don't worry, you don't need to farm profit to get a certain item, although it would be cool if it was for cosmetics. The souls can be used to unlock Corpora that you can find in the run or unlock a protocol you can start off with. So if you want to start off with Backstab instead of Blink Strike for Flux, this is how you can do it. There's even a passive you can unlock with your Void Matter where bosses can give you up to 3 souls each. It doesn't take long to unlock everything in the game, but again, it's in early access so no doubt some things will change. Morbid Metal also has lore items you can pick up, although they are random with where they spawn and you could have iterations where you don't find any. I think it took 5 runs before I found one, and this can give the game an element of horror. One of the lore items is for the character Vector, and I'll be honest, kinda creepy with what's written there. I hope this gets expanded on. It'd be cool for the gameplay to appear fast paced and about style, but taking a second to look at the game deeper, it ends up being closer to horror. Just a thought, but I think it complements it and add depth as well. Speaking of combat, this is probably what most people know the game for. It's fun. Enemy variety is limited, but it's an early access, so what would you expect? Although, it's amazing with what they've been able to do with so little. Every room you enter has a combat encounter you have to complete. There's a style meter which currently could do with some work. I think it's important to draw the comparison to Devil May Cry, as it's probably one of the most popular, if not the most popular game series with the style meter and how the meter is built up. In DMC, you have to switch your attacks a lot and perform different combos. Doing the same attack in succession from each other will lead to the meter dropping. In Morbid Metal, the meter continues to build up. Your regular attacks will keep building it up for a while before it starts to go down. I can see this getting improved on in future, but right now, getting an S rank at least doesn't require too much in terms of combos performed. This is very similar to the style meter used in the DMC reboot than the mainline games, so damage is king. Getting hit is punishing though, but not to the same extent as DMC, so that's a plus. Seeing a triple S go down to a D from one hit is soul crushing. With the different protocols you can get for each character, the combos you can pull off can be quite something. Flux is pretty OP at the moment, and that's because of this. Yeah. I dare anyone to go a run without building around backstab kills. It's not bad this exists, but the fact Flux can remove 90% of enemies in the arena with a single attack is busted. Some balance is definitely needed, and because of this, the other characters, Echo and Vector, kinda take a backseat on the fights most of the time. Technically, Echo is supposed to do the most raw damage, but if this screenshot is anything to go by, bit of an oof there. I love that I can switch between characters on the fly. Each character has a different strength, and with the current enemy variety being picked specifically to show off the strengths for each one of them and what they counter best is a really good way to get people to understand the game better. You have fast but weak enemies, and Flux is a good choice for this. Echo can deal with the bigger guys, he can get super armor and stun enemies, so really useful. Then there's Vector. Technically he's the weakest. On paper. Vector is really good for crowd control. There are some flying enemies that can move away and actually off the arena if it allows for it. As he's a ranged character, he counters this without any problems. You can pull light enemies towards you or pull yourself towards heavy enemies. Making contact with the heavy enemies this way actually pushes them back and can knock them off the edge, instantly killing them, or you just have them knocked down. He's really good for when you need to control enemy placement until the cooldowns are done for the other two. I can't ignore the soundtrack. I can see where that Ubisoft money comes in now. They got Blue Starly to do the music. At least for now, maybe more artists in the alt metal genre will come in and do the music, but it works really well here. Not too many songs to listen to at the moment, which is to be expected, but I like how they did the DMC5 thing, where the more style you have, the harder the song goes. I'm just going to leave the link to the first boss's music in the description. Give it a listen and think of something similar for the rest of the game. Honestly, it's so fun. I've been playing Morbid Metal whenever I get the chance. I even decided to 100% it. Not the most difficult game to get 100% achievements on, but when more come from the updates, I'll most likely boost it up and go on another binge just cuz. The devs have released a roadmap and it is looking very promising. You can see a lot of love went into this, and for anyone who watched my Samson video, you'll know that I don't actually like roguelites, but this, I can get behind it. I'm hoping the devs expand on a few things, like how you get the other playable characters. Right now it's a case of you finding Echo in Biome 1 and Vector in Biome 2. You find them very early on in both, so they're hard to miss, but acquiring them is done through a cutscene where Flux kills them and absorbs their power. It would be nice to actually fight them instead of watching a short cutscene. Maybe that will happen at a later patch, but just a thought. There's a training area in the Void, the central hub of the game you're in before starting a run. Although not too much you can do with it aside from having waves of enemies spawn. You can't pick what you want to train against at the moment, but I'm hoping it gets expanded on as well, and acts similar to the Void in DMC5, which I still see as the perfect training area for an action game. I did find it weird that the Triple S achievement can be obtained from the training area. It felt undeserved because I'm not limited to a small group of enemies like I normally am in runs. Morbid Metal has a lot of potential and is a lot of fun to play. I will be visiting it every now and then when there's a big enough patch update to see how it's changed, maybe make a video about the changes. Until then, as always, thank you for watching to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, consider leaving a like and subscribing, it helps a lot. Leave a comment for anything you feel I could improve on, or if you didn't like it. I read all the feedback I get and try to improve from there.